Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is starting off as fantastic as it possibly can. I'm starting the video today with a picture of a beautiful, nice summer day in Newfoundland on Westbrook Pond. And if you're Canadian, you'll understand that the picture behind me for Newfoundland is just makes you want to put on your shorts and t-shirt and get out on the boat on the pond. We do have a fantastic country, don't we? Today I'm going to calm your fears because I'm sure you've been inundated by the inflammatory rhetoric and the headlines over the last couple of days. Trump increases tariffs on Canada to 35%. Quick, sell, panic, locusts! Well, I'm going to explain to you what exactly is happening and how it's a little bit overblown in the media. And our approach, and in fact the approach of the United States' three biggest trading partners, China, Mexico, and Canada, we're all doing exactly the right thing. And that is providing lip service to the big buffoon down south, continuing discussions, but not signing anything, and really not jumping into any ridiculous deal with the guy. I'll explain to you how the Americans are really just hurting themselves and destroying their own economy, while Canada just patiently moves forward and tries not to do anything stupid. Reported in the Financial Post, Trump hikes tariffs on Canada to 35%, but keeps CUSMA. Now that's important, but keeps CUSMA. Now reported here on a United States website, CNN, they also explained that he did this by executive order and used the following excuse. In response to Canada's continued inaction and retaliation around stemming the flow of fentanyl into the United States, according to the fact sheet in the executive order. Now that is just a nonsense justification. And unfortunately, it's convinced tens of millions of Americans that this is really a problem that they should get angry about, that there's fentanyl crossing the border from Canada into the United States, and that Trump should declare a state of emergency and raise the tariffs. He probably wore his Make Americans Grumpy Again hat when he made the announcement, but any rational person who's ever traveled or can use his brain would understand. Let me just ask you this question. Have you ever crossed a border? Have you ever entered another country? Have you ever tried to smuggle drugs into another country? Let's forget the drugs. Have you ever just crossed a border? What happens when you try and cross a border into another country? Whose responsibility is it to check your luggage, check your ID, make sure you're not trying to bring anything illegal into the country? Whose responsibility is that? It would be the country that's deciding whether they let you in, not the country that you're coming from. Americans, if you don't want certain things crossing your borders into your country, then you should ask your border services to stop it. It's your responsibility. It's not our responsibility. Canada's responsibility on our border with the United States is to stop illegal things from coming into our country, like illegal guns and drugs. Our border security will stop you from coming into our country carrying illegal things. This whole justification for the tariffs is utter nonsense, and it's being challenged in U.S. court. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But they go on here to explain that goods that are compliant with the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement would not be subject to the higher rate, the White House said, which would blunt the impact of the tariffs. Now, goods that are compliant with the USMCA, or as we like to call it, CUSMA, that represents the majority of trade between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So most trade will not be affected by this 10% increase in tariffs. It will only affect the specific sectors that Donald Trump used his executive power in response to a so-called national security risk due to fentanyl crossing the border, when he imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum. Those sectors will be affected, no doubt about that. But most trade between Canada, Mexico, and the US will just keep proceeding as it has been for a long time. Now, there is a pending legal challenge working its way through the courts, and for the 35% tariffs that specifically target Canada, Trump used the law that allows the United States president to take emergency economic measures to deal with any unusual and extraordinary threat to national security. And as reported here on CBC, that tariff is facing a legal challenge right now that has reached a federal appeals court, putting it further along in the U.S. court system than any other tariff lawsuit. So if the courts rule that his use of this law was illegal, that could wipe away these 35% tariffs and the 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum. Of course, if the court does rule that way, Donald Trump will just disagree with the court. He'll call them all radical left lunatic Democrats and spout some more nonsense, and the battle will probably continue as he tries to govern like an authoritarian. But the fact is that these court challenges take time, and there's no reason for Canada to do or sign anything stupid until the verdicts come in. The courts could solve this for us, and we don't have to rush into any silly deal. Which brings me to this headline in Yahoo Finance: no trade deal with US is better than a bad one, Canadian business groups are saying. And this is absolutely true. And in fact, David Peterson, who's the Ontario representative for trade, who is in Washington, made a statement saying, "The sun will shine in the morning and we will carry on. We really support the Prime Minister's approach. When the time is right for that agreement to come together, it will." Basically saying, well, we're not in any rush to sign anything stupid. There is no reason for Canada now to sign any document or make any agreement with the United States that imposes tariffs on anything that we export to them, because our trade is governed by CUSMA. If we sign anything that includes tariffs now, when CUSMA comes up for renegotiation a year from now, the Americans can take the position that, well, you've already agreed to these tariffs. We want those officially in the renegotiated USMCA. We have a year now to stall and delay and kick the can down the road and not sign or do anything stupid, because most of our trade will just progress as it always have. Some sectors are going to be hit hard, like steel, aluminum, the auto industry. But Canada was very smart right at the beginning of this dispute to impose reciprocal tariffs on the United States on some imports that we can source elsewhere, that we don't really have to buy from the United States, targeted tariffs, which some people will still import those things and choose to pay that tariff. And the Canadian government will collect that money, and the Canadian government will use that money to support the specific businesses that are going to be hurt by these 35% tariffs now. It's complicated, but we're doing the right thing. And the right thing is not to do too much, because Canada is in a much better position to weather the storm and win this trade war than the United States. And the reason is that Canada's exports to the United States are heavily weighted to raw materials that are necessary for the United States to manufacture things. Metals, aluminum, steel, copper, uranium, potash, lumber, electricity, oil, gas. All of those things are ingredients that United States companies use to manufacture things. And if the Americans want to pay an import tax, a tariff, on some of those commodities from us, and the demand for those commodities drops in Canada, we can pivot and try and sell those things anywhere else in the world, because everyone needs that stuff. The economy that it will hurt is the United States economy, because now the inputs to all of their manufacturing, the cost of everything they use to manufacture things, will go up. Because despite what between 50 and 100 million Americans believe, it's not Canada that's going to pay this import tax. It's an import tax. A tariff is an import tax. U.S. companies that import those things from Canada to the United States will pay that tax. They will pay that tax to the U.S. government. The U.S. government will do whatever it wants with that money. But that tax is real, and it will be sucked out of the American economy. Manufacturing costs will increase in the United States, and companies will raise their prices. If they don't raise their prices as much as the value of the tax they pay, they will make less profit. If they make less profit, they'll have less money to hire people or expand. Their economy will be hurt by the tariffs that they're imposing on themselves. Reported on CNN just the other day, U.S. job growth stalls. Just 73,000 jobs added in July, with stunning downward revisions to recent months. May's estimated 144 net gain was revised down by 125,000 to 19,000 jobs. June's preliminary total of 147,000 jobs was slashed by 133,000 to 14,000. With those monumental revisions, the meager job gains in June were the weakest since December of 2020, the last time the labor market had monthly job losses. The pace of job creation so far this year is the weakest in decades outside recessions. This is absolutely the worst major economic report since the end of the pandemic era. And I know some people don't really understand numbers, so let me give you a more colorful way of explaining it. It's like Donald Trump keeps crapping on his own desk. He turns around and he pulls down his pants and he craps a big pile of crap on his desk. And then he asks his aides and his negotiators and his bureaucrats to start trying to scrape that crap off his desk. And maybe some countries around the world will absorb and eat some of the crap. And let's try and get the crap lower. I had a big pile of crap of 145%, a Chinese pile of crap. And now I've got that pile of crap down to 30%. But no matter how much crap they scrape off the desk, he keeps pooping on the desk over and over and over again. And the crap keeps building up. And even if they scrape it off, it just becomes a big mess. The people that work for Trump, it must be a really shitty job. Not only did the United States economy only add 73,000 jobs, but the unemployment rate in the United States went up to 4.2% from 4.1%. And while the United States is destroying its own economy and passing on these costs to their consumers, the bottom 80% of the population, the middle class and the lower class that has to buy everything in the United States, they're going to have to pay more for everything, and their wage increases are going to slow down because companies won't make as much profits. While the United States sucks all that money out of their own economy and destroys their own economy, the headline for Canada is surprisingly strong June jobs numbers quashed the Bank of Canada's rate cut odds. The unemployment rate dropped 0.1% to 6.9% in June as the economy added 83,000 jobs. We added a larger number of jobs than the United States did, and we have 1/10 the population. So I just want to impress upon you to resist the urge to just panic when you hear these headlines. 35% tariff. Oh, everything's going to be terrible. Canada's broken. Mark Carney hasn't got a deal yet. What's he doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. Run for the hills. Locusts! I just like to say locusts. I don't know why. It's a funny word to me. But when you sift through the headlines and the inflammatory rhetoric and you actually look at the numbers, it's what I've predicted and what I've been saying. And it's simple math. The United States is imposing hardship on itself by taxing itself. They're taxing their own citizens on products that are manufactured with imported materials. They're paying import taxes on everything they import, and they're manufacturing things, and those things are going to be more expensive. And the biggest consumers of those things are Americans. It's no wonder that many of them wear that hat, make Americans grumpy again. I guess that's the plan. And it's not a coincidence that the three main trading partners of the United States, Mexico, China, and Canada, are not rushing to sign anything or to make any stupid deal where we legitimize these tariffs, where we actually sign a document that says, oh yes, we agree to lower that 35% tariff to 28%. Let me sign on the dotted line. As soon as we sign something stupid like that, when the USMCA or CUSMA comes up for renegotiation a year from now, then there's our stupid signature on a document that says we agree to 28% tariffs. I'm just pulling that number out of a hat. We don't want to sign anything like that because CUSMA, the USMCA, right now governs our trade, and there's no reason to do anything. We just abide by that. And every now and then, the big buffoon down south will flap his mouth and have a new burst of anger. He'll make Americans grumpier again and launch a new attack. Maybe he'll accuse Canada of other ridiculous things like there's too many chihuahuas crossing the border. Americans are buying too many chihuahuas from Canada and they bark too much and it's annoying him and that's a national security or whatever. And let's slap another 20% tariff on you. It's ridiculous and it's best ignored. You don't want to poke the bear. You don't want to retaliate. You don't want to get him angry. You just want to say, yes, yes, Donald, you're doing a great job. Oh, you're really interested in this particular issue. Let's talk about that. Let's negotiate that. There's a lot of very complicated issues that need to be discussed here, and we're going to send our best team down there to really talk about it with your best team. And in the meantime, let's export our raw materials to the rest of the world. I wouldn't be surprised if you see in the short term here some projects be deemed in the national interest and accelerated in Canada to expand port facilities, possibly in Montreal, Vancouver, and maybe St. John's. I haven't done the research on this, so I'm not sure exactly which ones, but facilities that would enable us to increase our exports via sea. So Canada just has to shift who our customers are. It's not that complicated, and we really shouldn't panic. Things aren't so bad. Locusts! So thanks for watching my video, and a big shout out to all you viewers from Newfoundland. Where did I get these pictures that I posted in the back of my videos? I sourced them from the I Choose Canada group that I created. If you want to see some of the pictures, or if you want to upload some of your own pictures of great, fantastic places within our own country, I may take them and use them in the videos. I'll leave a link for the I Choose Canada group in the video description. Leave some comments. We have a buzzing comment section with lots of thoughtful comments from all of you. And if you'd like to support this channel monetarily on a monthly basis, consider becoming a channel member by clicking the join button or in the link that I pinned to my comment on top of the comment section. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you all on the next one. You thought I was going to say locusts again, didn't you? Catch you on the next one.